Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. This frickin' FBI, man. Have you seen these posts that are circulating of the FBI coming and knocking on people's doors because they want to talk to them about social media posts?
Yeah. Is this not an April Fool's joke, right?
It's not an April Fool's joke. It's so disturbing. And since they've destroyed their credibility, the FBI has, with so much of the population, and I'm included in that. I'm sorry I'm not giving them the benefit of the doubt here of their good nature to keep everybody safe proactively, but of course operating within the bounds of people's constitutional rights. I don't believe it. I don't believe them. I don't believe in the leadership, and I don't believe in the directives coming from the leadership. Here is an example of what I'm talking about. This is a guy who goes by the Twitter handle Misfit Patriot. He's in San Antonio. FBI shows up to his door. He apparently wasn't home, but they're speaking through the intercom and the front of his building.
Yeah.
And then he comments on his subsequent phone conversation with the FBI. Take a listen.
Are you home? We'd like to speak to you for a second. No, I'm not home. What is this in regards to? This is, if you'd like, I can meet you, or I can meet you.
So that's the full recording that I have. Now, right after that video cut off, I gave him my number to call me because it was very choppy. As you can see, I was repeating stuff. So I talked to Mr. Highland on the phone. And by the way, as far as I know, this is an actual FBI agent who works with the actual FBI. And this is a LinkedIn page showing that FBI agent who works in my city. So conspiracy theorists, most likely that's the FBI, okay? People don't make badges and show up to random people's houses and then record themselves talking to them impersonating agents. Just side note. Now, I would never drop a recorded phone call with the FBI, even if I had one, so you're going to have to take my word for this next part. I talked to this agent on the phone. The agent said that they were at my house, and the only thing that they could tell me is it was in regards to my social media. I asked them if it was about a specific post on my social media, and the reply from the agent was, "No, we looked at your social media and found nothing illegal. We are just here to check off a box. It's procedure." To which I replied, "You need to talk to my attorney. I've told you guys, be prepared for anything, and that includes the FBI coming to your house." So, my attorney reached out to them 5 seconds after I got off the phone with them, which was 5 minutes after I talked to them. They did not answer. They have not returned my attorney's call to this date. We have no further information. I have also reached out to more than one journalist, and they have reached out, as far as I know, and have not heard back either. So, the FBI is showing up to people's houses that aren't committing crimes and trying to check off boxes. Let me know what you think of that.
I'll let you know what I think of that. I think it's chilling. At best. And by the way, so before those on the left who believe the ends justify the means and are happy to suspend the constitutional rights of people with whom they disagree, ignorantly believing this will never boomerang back on them because they're saving democracy. Let me give you another example from the other side, as it were. This guy goes by Misfit Patriot, probably right of center, probably pro-Trump. Well, Rala Abdeljawad of Stillwater, Oklahoma, is not. She claims she was told by FBI agents who showed up at her door. Facebook handed over screenshots of her posts, which was public, so Facebook didn't need to hand over anything. And apparently she had posted some things that were anti-Israel in some fashion. Okay.
Like most of Chicagoans and our aldermen, but okay, go on.
Right, yeah, Sigcho Lopez, right.
Yeah.
Facebook gave us a couple of screenshots of your account, said one agent wearing a gray shirt, in this video. She replied, "So we no longer live in a free country and we can't say what we want. The agent said, "No, we totally do. That's why we're not here to arrest you or anything.
Oh, that's nice.
We do this every day, all day long. It's just an effort to keep everybody safe and make sure nobody has ill will.
What?
Make sure nobody has ill will. That's the job of the FBI?
When did the FBI become traitors of our country?
Well, when did they become policing people's feelings and interpersonal, the status of their interpersonal relationships, whether you feel good about the people you're communicating with or you don't, or your leadership of the country or you don't, or the particular people involved in a particular issue or event, or you.
Why are they focusing on
To keep everybody safe, make sure nobody has ill will. She said, all I've done is exercise my right as an American citizen on a public social media platform with my personal opinions. Yeah.
That's not a. They should not focus on feelings. They should focus on real violent threats that are made on Facebook.
For more on this, we're pleased to be joined by Andy McCarthy. He, of course, is a former chief assistant U.S. attorney for the Southern District of New York. That's Manhattan. Contributing editor, National Review, author of the bestseller Ball of Collusion, The Plot to Rig an Election and Destroy a Presidency. Andy, thanks for joining us as always. Appreciate it.
Well, it's my pleasure.
So, is my pretty vociferous antagonism in the direction of the FBI warranted here, or am I taking it too far?
Well, yeah, I think that the FBI has to deal with the fact that they've made a record over the past decade plus of some very bad politicized behavior, and therefore people don't trust them anymore. And, when you have an organization that is trustworthy, you can do a lot of things and people won't be too upset about it compared to what you have now. For example, back after 9/11, agents were very aggressive, and I encouraged them to be in trying to gather information about threats to the United States. And that involved talking to a lot of people who may have been involved in suspicious behavior or with suspicious groups, maybe associated with radical mosques, but who they didn't have probable cause had committed any crimes. And they would try to chat them up and get information. And at the time, they had a pretty good reputation for doing that the right way. And everybody recognized that we had a national security threat. We had just gotten attacked and 3,000 people had been killed. But if you flash forward 25 years, we're in a very different environment now. They've been very politicized over the last number of years. I think they've been actively used. I'm not sure if it's everybody in the FBI, but there's certainly some offices in the FBI which have been actively used in promoting a democratic narrative that right-of-center people are like a step away from becoming domestic terrorists. I think that's picking up steam because part of the Democrats don't have, Biden doesn't have a record that's pleasing to the country to run on. So what they're going to run on is Trump, and they're going to run on Trump and the Capitol riot. So the kind of stuff that we're seeing is, I think, going to be stepped up. And if you thought that the Bureau was acting in good faith and that they wouldn't go out and have a chat with someone unless they really thought that there was a crime or a threat of force problem, if they had that kind of credibility, I think people would give them a lot of rhythm to do this kind of thing. But since they don't, you want to know what's their probable cause for going out there to talk to somebody like that. And if they don't have it, then why are they allowed to do that?
Well, I mean, it's particularly when they use phrases like, we're just here to keep everybody safe and make sure no one has ill will. I'll tell you what, agent, I have ill will towards you and the agency you work for. How does that grab you? So are you going to be checking boxes at my place in a routine basis because I'm all welled up with ill will towards federal law enforcement agencies that behave in just the way you described? I mean, the whole attitude is Orwellian, frankly.
Yeah, but I don't disagree with you, but This has been going on for a long time. People complain about it, and every year their budget increases.
Yeah, well, I hear you.
People like me say, you want to stop the behavior.
Yep.
The only language they understand in Washington is slash their budget and put severe limits on what they're allowed to do.
Absolutely.
So there's a lot of gas bagging. People go on television and whinge and whine about it. But when it comes time to sign off on the omnibus multi-trillion-dollar budget, the next thing you know, the Justice Department's gone from being a $30 billion agency to a $40 billion agency.
100%. 100%. Well, so to that end, I mean, I don't want to do this to be punitive because I don't want to be as venal as I'm accusing them of being. But what about something like when you talk about reining in their scope and the powers that they can access under color of law? What about Section 702 that Christopher Wray is pumping for renewal, and at least some constitutional-oriented senators in the Republican ranks like Lee and Rand Paul are balking at that?
Yeah, well, I think they're. I don't think they're very constitutional on this. I like Lee and Paul, but I don't. When they start to talk about the Fourth Amendment, my head starts to explode. 702 is about gathering foreign intelligence against people outside the United States, non-Americans who want to attack the country or might want to attack the country. And we don't give the FBI that authority because we think they're great guys. We give them that authority because we have people out in the world who want to attack the United States and mean ill toward Americans, and we have to guard the country against them. And when they abuse those powers, the thing to do is to hold accountable the people who abuse the powers. It's not to take the powers away. We don't give the powers because we want to give the powers. We give the powers because we have people who hate America and want to attack our country.
But Andy, if I could interrupt, but as you're referencing the almost 300,000 times they abused that power, and the problem is that you don't have a Justice Department that will hold them accountable. So how do you get a Justice Department that holds accountable abuses of power like we've seen under 702? And I guess the answer would be make more judicious choices at the ballot box. But I mean, is there anything else?
Well, I think that, to my mind, I think that you need to use the civil rights laws affirmatively against government agents who violate people's actual civil rights. So it's not enough to report to the FISA court that we overstepped the bounds of the minimization instructions in the 702 orders that get signed off on. The people who do that have to be held accountable. They have to be publicly identified. The FBI doesn't seem to fire anyone. If they do, they do it very quietly, so no one feels like there's ever any vindication. And I think people who, when government agents go to social media companies and cross the line and get them to suppress people's speech, or if they intimidate people, with respect to their speech or behavior, that's got to be investigated under the civil rights laws. If it was a Democratic Justice Department as it is now, and there was an inkling that the police were doing something that the left disapproved of, they would be all over it with a civil rights lawsuit. And I think what has to happen is you have to get a Republican or conservative government that's willing to use the civil rights laws to uphold the actual Bill of Rights protections of Americans, not just preferred leftist agitators.
All right. Well, speaking of suppressed speech, what about this gag order on former President Trump? I mean, he had to know it was coming, right?
Well, he had to know it was coming, but that doesn't make it right. The theory now, this order, Amy, was expanded now, so that Trump's not supposed to talk about the judge's daughter. The judge's daughter is a Democratic political activist. He's got an absolute First Amendment right, and I think he's got a right in the trial to argue that he's being railroaded by a progressive elected Democratic DA who wouldn't have brought this case against anyone else, and that the judge should recuse himself. He's got a right to make that argument. And instead, what Judge Merchan is saying is that even though the district attorney hasn't accused Trump of incitement, nor could he, because Trump didn't direct anybody to do anything, that Trump has such power that when he says things, there are crazies out there who will act on it in an intimidating way, and therefore it's too punitive for people who are in the system, like judges and prosecutors, to do their jobs because now they have to worry about members of their family being intimidated. Trump didn't pick out Merchan's daughter like out of the sky for no reason,
Right.
just randomly.
But
She's
people
a
don't know that.
Democratic political activist who works for Democrats who define themselves by how much they loathe Trump.
Like Adam
Her
Schiff.
father
And
is the judge on this case.
yeah, and right, they're so intimidated by what Trump will do and what he says that his daughter makes money by sending out email fundraising, and her company by sending out email fundraising asks based on what Trump has said, and that's how she helps to fundraise for Adam Schiff and other Democrat clients. I mean, give me a break, as you said. The specifics of it are even worse than she's just some. It's not like she's just some political operative in the ecosystem. She traffics in things that Trump says to raise money from the base for candidates that, as you said, have built their career around trying to put Trump in jail and take away his stuff. I mean, give me a so in terms of the recusal, I mean, it's not going to happen, I suppose, because why would this thing not stay as wired up as it is? But I mean, do you think that the judge in this case, because of his daughter, in a real justice system, would recuse himself? That would be the right and proper thing to do.
It would be the right and proper thing to do. It doesn't even have to. You don't have to prove actual bias. There's just you just need to show an appearance of impropriety.
Right.
And here you have it looks to me like you have bias all over the place. A good judge would want to get off this case so that the integrity of the process wasn't questioned. But this whole thing is look. Trump is entitled. You may not believe that it's rigged, and he may not. He may get acquitted, or he may get convicted. I don't know, but he's allowed to make the argument, especially given that he's running for president. You know, these courts. To me, the most offensive thing about this is they think that there's nothing else that's a higher interest in the American government than the administration of justice and their little trials, and that's more important than the First Amendment interest in an election that's decided by the public rather than partisan prosecutors. And Trump, because he is the major party candidate of one of the president of one of the two parties, that has to be respected by the court. He's allowed to run for president. The Constitution allows him to do that. So to my mind, it is very simple. If the courts are worried about the administration of justice in these cases, put them off until after the election's over. If you're not going to put them off till after the election's over, fine, then Trump should only be limited in what he can say by the way the First Amendment limits you, which is he can't incite violence and he can't defame anyone. And if he does that, he can be sued or prosecuted. But otherwise, there shouldn't be. The courts are creating this situation by forcing these trials to be scheduled prior to the election. That's what the problem is. They've forced this situation.
Andy McCarthy, former Chief Assistant U.S. Attorney, Southern District of New York, contributing editor, National Review, author of the bestseller Ball of Collusion, The Plot to Rig an Election and Destroy